Welcome to WHRO's Weekly Edition. I'm Jordan Christie.
And I'm Barry Graham.
We highlight the week's news and stories happening all over Hampton Roads. We'll take a look at the latest headlines for Hampton Roads. A shooting at the oceanfront last weekend left 6 people injured. Now Virginia Beach may use early emergency curfews to mitigate and control weekend crowds.
NOAA is considering new vessel speed rules to limit collisions with endangered whale species.
We kill them unintentionally with vessel strikes and entanglement in fishing gear. Those are the 2 main threats to the population, and they're entirely human and preventable.
And a Norfolk woman thought she was suffering from an everyday skin rash, but it turned out to be a rare autoimmune disease. We'll hear her story. It's WHRO's Weekly Edition. A new report shows China's global maritime footprint is enormous. WHO business and growth reporter Toby Cox says China's reach even extends all the way to Hampton Roads.
It's sort of becoming newsworthy that China has this vast maritime empire.
That's Alex Woolley with AidData, a research lab at William & Mary. He's part of the team that recently published a report about China's investments in ports around the world. He says China's presence in Hampton Roads is through trade. The region exports a type of coal that China needs for its steel industry.
You have Newport News Shipbuilding building ships for U.S. Navy. A mile away, you have coal destined to make steel in China, and that steel may be made to make Chinese warships.
Woolley says the region imports Chinese technology used in port infrastructure, like those gigantic cranes on shore that unload containers. He says some people are concerned the port is too dependent on China for key technology. Toby Cox, WHRO News.
Chesapeake Public Schools is partnering with a telehealth provider to offer free virtual counseling for K-12 students and their families. WHRO's health reporter Yiqing Wang breaks down how the program will operate.
The new program allows students to receive regular counseling services ranging from weekly to monthly check-ins. Tiffany Yancey is the founder of the Virtual Peace of Mind, the telehealth provider. She says the program goes beyond counseling by also connecting families with resources for challenges such as housing, food, and financial stress.
We're looking at the family as a whole. And while we're working clinically with the student, our family resource coordinator will be working with the family to provide them some support.
School leaders say addressing those stressors can help improve students' focus and behavior in the classroom, and they are looking to partner with local hospitals for additional care. Yiqing Wang, WHRO News.
A recent project mapped the USS Monitor shipwreck off the Outer Banks in more detail than ever. WHRO's Catherine Hafner takes us there.
The Monitor was the nation's first ironclad battleship and fought in the Battle of Hampton Roads during the Civil War. It sank during a storm off Cape Hatteras on the last day of 1862. The Mariners Museum in Newport News has hundreds of artifacts from the site.
You can see here there's one of the gun carriages, and this tank and that tank have the 2 Monitor guns in them.
But most of it's still on the ocean floor. Tane Casserly has dived to the site almost 80 times as a maritime archaeologist with the Monitor National Marine Sanctuary. He says it's challenging to get consistent measurements that way. The new imagery paints the shipwreck in high-resolution 3D. Casserly says that will help them uncover stories hidden deep underwater.
They're making that history come alive for us in ways we haven't had before.
The data came courtesy of Northrop Grumman, the defense and aerospace contractor. Catherine Hafner, WHRO News.
After violence at the oceanfront last weekend, Virginia Beach may use early emergency curfews to control weekend crowds. WHRO's John Doucette reports what's next in the aftermath of the shooting.
The City Council could adopt what is called an imminent threat curfew for unaccompanied minors on weekend nights through the end of April. The curfew may start at 7 p.m. It's in response to growing concern about crowds at the resort. This past weekend, a shooting along Atlantic Avenue injured 6 people. Police also took 37 people into custody for curfew violations. Most were turned over to parents, but police said 2 had illegal guns. Police Chief Paul Newdigate says the proposal is not meant to lead to mass arrests, but keep people safe.
Right now, we're very concerned as a police department that we will see a repeat this coming weekend of what we experienced this past weekend.
Council may vote during a special meeting Thursday. This would be in addition to Council's recent decision to move up the city's curfew by 1 hour to 10 p.m. That starts March 19th. John Doucette, WHRO News.
Bill Kellum's VHF Records have been releasing music for more than 30 years, issuing everything from shoegaze to string band and improvised music.
Some of the groups he's worked with have been based in Europe or Asia, but a lot of the label's catalog has been drawn from Virginia talent.
WVTF's Dave Cantor has more.
It's okay if an album doesn't recoup its costs for 20 years, Bill Kellum said while sitting in his Albemarle County home office, surrounded by hundreds of LPs and CDs. Kellum began performing in his own bands while studying at James Madison University, merging avant rock and burbling electronics. The guitarist eventually settled in Northern Virginia and connected with a DC area rock scene that at the time included teen beat records acts like Unrest. He caught live shows at DC Space and the 930 Club, but also traveled through the Commonwealth playing and seeing live music, including a few notable Charlottesville bills.
So I remember seeing Sonic Youth at Trax in 1990, saw Jesus Lizard, Superchunk, Mudhoney, all those bands there. And that was kind of another thing for me is like once you see a performance that really reaches you up close, without all the production, without it being 100 yards away from you, without there being like a kind of showbiz aspect to it that's off-putting, it really like rewires you.
Watching those groups gain notoriety at the same time Kellum was beginning to release his own music demystified the industry a bit, and attending all those shows helped him meet a raft of performers who'd eventually release music through VHF. Those encounters also made Kellum think his talents were best suited to running a label, not performing or setting up shows. Mike Gangloff, a fiddler now based in Southwest Virginia, met Kellum in Richmond during the 90s. Since then, he's released more than a dozen albums through VHF.
The kind of music that Bill has championed, it's been quite a range. And while I think it all kind of has a certain psychedelic, artsy coherence, I'm not sure that there are many other small labels that have had the persistence and the range that he's had.
Gangloff, cellist Kaylee Shanker, and guitarist Jesse Shepard released their debut recording as Universal Light through VHF earlier this month. The group combines Appalachian string music and what Gangloff called directed improvisation. They've set up a brief March tour through North Carolina and Virginia. Gangloff also credits the label owner for helping foster an earlier band he played in, called Pelt.
For Pelt, it's hard to think what we would have done without Bill. The whole course that we took was aided by his mixing and his giving us the gear to actually record the sounds in the first place.
Jack Rose, who'd go on to establish himself as a solo performer before passing away in 2009, was a member of the group with Gangloff for more than a decade. Rose's fingerstyle playing helped reignite interest in a unique strain of American guitar music. Kellum counts his Opium music recording among his favorite VHF releases, and said Rose's Kensington Blues ranks as one of the imprint's best-selling albums.
And it kind of has like everything he does. There's some, American primitive style stuff, and there are a couple of extended kind of raga type pieces on it. So it really is, great from start to end. And it's got something for everybody, I guess, maybe is a good way to think of it.
VHF never moved a ton of merchandise, despite releasing Rose's briskly selling work, as well as a number of recordings by the well-regarded British group Flying Saucer Attack, Kellum said. And like the industry as a whole, sales have decreased over time, but making a mint wasn't ever the goal.
The label is just a conduit for those people. Like, I kind of think of it like the coolest restaurant in your town is probably not the big chain, right? It's a funky place that you like, that's not like anything else. And the most interesting person is different from everybody else. And that's kind of where, I think our music sits. It's got a unique quality to it that for people who are interested in something different, fills that need.
I'm Dave Cantor.
Still ahead on Weekly Edition, Suffolk continued to lose farmland in 2025 as part of a growing trend in Virginia and around the country. But first, a 10-district voting system is now codified in Virginia Beach's city charter after years of controversy. WHRO's John Doucette dives into the details.
After a federal judge found the city's old system was discriminatory, the 10-1 system went into use in the 2022 city council and school board elections. It's been used ever since, but it wasn't part of the city charter. That's now changed after votes in Richmond. Both chambers passed the change and another bill that essentially protects the districts being used. They have an emergency clause that means they go into effect right away. State Senator Aaron Rouse, a former Virginia Beach council member, says the system means local government better reflects residents.
We have a very diverse city, and that should be reflected on city council.
According to the city, the changes will be communicated to federal and state judges who've been awaiting the result. John Doucette, WHRO News.
The concept for Williamsburg's planned African American Heritage Trail was ready to go at the beginning of the year. Now, WHRO's Nick McNamara reports, thanks to a recently awarded state grant, it's fully funded.
Williamsburg's trail got the last $80,000 it needed through a Virginia Museum of History and Culture grant in early March. It will pay for signs at the trailhead that will list primarily Black communities that were displaced and gentrified by the city and colonial Williamsburg over the years. The trail has been a goal since 2020, but work began in earnest in 2023, when Williamsburg held input sessions to shape its path and the stories it will tell. It will start at Harris Bottom near the municipal building and stretch 2 miles through downtown, passing a dozen spots that were important to Williamsburg's Black community throughout its history. Nick McNamara, WHRO News.
The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration is considering changes to vessel speed rules designed to protect endangered whales. WHRO's Catherine Hefner reports how these changes could mitigate collisions.
Only about 380 North Atlantic right whales remain in the ocean. Historically, the whaling industry was to blame. Marine scientist Nora Ives with the nonprofit Oceana says today,
we kill them unintentionally with vessel strikes and entanglement in fishing gear. Those are the two main threats to the population, and they're entirely human and preventable.
Right whales move slowly and have no dorsal fin, making them hard to see. Vessels 65 feet or longer are required to slow down in critical habitat. NOAA says it wants to explore technology that can, quote, reduce unnecessary regulatory and economic burdens. Conservationists like Ives worry that could mean loosening the guardrails.
They still need this protection in place, and quite frankly, more protections.
She says officials should use new technology to boost the regulation. Catherine Hafner, WHRO News.
Old Dominion University is partnering with the Virginia Beach Police Department to embed counseling students inside the department. WHRO's health reporter I-Ching Wang has more on the collaboration.
Starting in fall 2026, selected counseling master's students at ODU will keep taking classes while completing a year-long internship counseling police officers. 4th Precinct Commanding Officer William Gervin says some officers hesitate to seek mental health care because counselors often don't fully understand police work. The new program aims to change that by immersing counseling students in the day-to-day environment of law enforcement.
There's going to be learning on two sides of the house. You know, the officers are going to learn a little bit more about what they do as counselors, and then the counselors are going to learn a lot about the police culture in the city of Virginia Beach.
Gervin and officials at ODU say this is the first program of its kind in the country. The pilot could expand to other agencies across the region. I-Ching Wang, WHRO News.
Also, for the latest updates on Thursday's shooting at ODU, visit WHRO.org.
Governor Abigail Spanberger announced new appointments to the Virginia Parole Board Tuesday. WVTF's Brad Kuttner reports that the announcement comes as numerous reforms to the Commonwealth's parole system could see the process change.
According to advocates, there are over 3,000 incarcerated people eligible for parole in Virginia. The largest population in that group is geriatric parole, people in their 60s, and that group is growing. Governor Abigail Spanberger announced the 5 individuals Tuesday morning that will help decide if they should be released. Among appointees is an advocate for Virginia Victims Fund. Another is a director of reentry services at the Department of Juvenile Justice. Another is a pastor in Henrico County's 6th Mount Zion Baptist Church.
To various categories.
Another effort passed last year by Floyd County Republican Delegate Ren Williams is expected to make the process more transparent.
Turn it into real public hearings and real public meetings and giving people that are going through the process information about how they can be successful with it rather than just being in the dark.
In Richmond, I'm Brad Kuttner.
Governor Abigail Spanberger is considering legislation that would ban the sale of assault-style weapons. WVTF's Michael Pope has the latest from the Capitol.
Virginia may be on the verge of banning the sale of assault-style weapons. Here's Senate Majority Leader Scott Surreville.
There's some things you can't buy today, like flamethrowers or rocket launchers. You can't have your own tank. That's the law in America today. Why? Because these are weapons of war that are used to kill humans. They're designed to maximize human carnage and to kill people. You don't hunt animals with a tank or a flamethrower.
The legislation banning the sale, manufacture, or transfer of assault-style weapons and large-capacity magazines was sent to the governor's desk on a party-line vote. Here's Senator Bryce Reeves, a Republican from Orange County.
If we don't have the Second Amendment, we're going to end up like Venezuela one day, or we're going to end up like all these other countries that don't have the ability to fight for their freedom against tyranny. And many of the other side of the aisle are worried about our current president and whether or not he's going to try to run again and all these other things that are out there. And for argument's sake, let's say he did. How are you going to stop him? Well, if you take away all the firearms from the law-abiding citizens, I don't think they're going to be able to do anything.
A spokeswoman for the governor says that as a mother of 3 daughters in Virginia public schools and a former federal law enforcement officer who carried a gun every day, Governor Spanberger knows the importance of making sure kids and families are safe. Reporting from the Capitol in Richmond, I'm Michael Pope.
Tony Snipes' art world is futuristic, historical, and based on his hometown of Portsmouth.
The new exhibition opened Wednesday at the Portsmouth Art and Cultural Center.
WHRO's Denise Watson has more.
The exhibition Steel Seas and Sky Machines is based at the fictional company, Portsmouth Aero Shipbuilding, which produces flying motorcycles and ships for battle. Snipes created the storyline more than a decade ago and now has thousands of online followers worldwide. He's excited that people can engage with his artwork in a different way with the exhibition.
This will be a unique opportunity just to really literally walk through this entire world that I've been able to create visually.
He will participate in lectures at the museum and host special sessions with students. The exhibition runs through June 22nd. Denise Watson, WHRO News.
Freelance writer Vicki Friedman contributed to this report.
A Norfolk woman thought she was just suffering from a garden variety rash, but it turned out to be a rare autoimmune disease that took years to diagnose. WHRO's health reporter Yiqing Wang has more on her condition.
Kanaya Gunter first noticed something was wrong when an itchy patch and swelling appeared around her eyes in 2008. She says everyday tasks quickly became harder.
And I was getting weaker and weaker by the day. Not able to get out of bed, not able to tie my shoes, raise my arms, to just getting dressed, or even just turning the doorknob to go outside to even start the car.
An ER visit in 2010 prompted doctors to diagnose her odd rash as dermatomyositis, a rare autoimmune disease that can affect the lungs and increase the risk of cancer. Gunter lives with the disease under care of doctors at Johns Hopkins. It isn't curable, but she's hopeful about a drug now showing promise in clinical trials. Yiqing Wang, WHRO News.
Suffolk continued to lose more farmland in 2025, part of a trend across Virginia and the United States. WHRO's Nick McNamara explains the cause.
The city lost about 500 acres last year. It adds up to a 19% decrease, nearing 10,000 acres since 2002. Most of the 2025 losses were to housing developments, with warehouses and other projects also contributing, according to Julia Hillegas, Suffolk's agricultural specialist. Hillegas expects to have a framework for a farmland preservation program similar to Virginia Beach's ready for city council in 2027. Whether Suffolk leaders will be interested or able to fund it remains uncertain.
I don't think it would be a slam dunk.
The farm sector did have some bright spots for Hillegas. Suffolk farmers ranked among the top 10 producers of several crops compared to other localities, and sales generated more than $35 million. Nick McNamara, WHRO News.
As the military has eliminated diversity and equal opportunity policies, some advocates say they've also seen the culture change concerning sexual assault and harassment. They say troops may feel less comfortable reporting that they've been victimized. Carson Frame reports for the American Homefront Project.
Soon after the Trump administration moved to end federal DEI programs, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth followed with directives for the military. He banned DEI policies, and bases removed content spotlighting race, sex, color, or ethnicity. Some say it created fear that other programs were in the crosshairs too, including the Army's Sexual Harassment and Assault Prevention and Response Program, known as SHARP.
I saw soldiers going around and ripping SHARP posters off of the wall because they were concerned it was a DEI program.
Rita Graham is an Army veteran and policy director for the Service Women's Action Network.
Because SHARP is associated with women service members, which of course is not the case, and everyone gets assaulted. Man, woman, assault isn't based off of a gender piece.
The Army's SHARP program did remain in place after the directive, but some of the service branches temporarily paused their sexual assault prevention training. Josh Connolly is the Senior Vice President of Protect Our Defenders, a nonprofit focused on military sexual violence.
There's a real concern within the services to not get crosswise with the secretary. And that means that they, I think, are leaning into training and prevention a lot less.
Advocates and attorneys say the culture around reporting sexual harassment is shifting, with more screening up front and more hesitation about moving cases forward. Ryan Giles is an attorney at Arnold & Porter who also represents victims pro bono through Protect Our Defenders Legal Support Network.
My sense of the overall environment is that victims of sexual harassment are far less likely to move forward with a case now than they would have been. I don't have the data on it. I'm not aware of any data on it, but the culture suggests that victims no longer are initially believed.
Giles points to a recent Pentagon memo reviewing the military's equal opportunity system, including how it handles sexual harassment complaints from civilian employees. The memo emphasizes the rights of the accused and possible punishment for people who file false reports. A Pentagon spokesperson said in a written statement that the memo does not apply to sexual assault cases. The department says it continues to encourage greater reporting of sexual assault and harassment and remains committed to helping victims and holding offenders appropriately accountable. Still, Rita Graham says the shift in tone is re-triggering symptoms for some survivors, and she worries it could discourage reporting over time.
Servicewomen feel less comfortable to report their assault to their chain of command. They then don't feel comfortable to go to the hospital to get a rape kit. All of these things just compound and ultimately reduce service members' trust and safety in their service.
And as those concerns grow, the Pentagon has dismantled several advisory groups that focused on sexual assault and harassment, including the Defense Advisory Committee on Women in the Services. In a social media post, the department criticized the group as pushing what it called a divisive feminist agenda. The Pentagon says it will still publish its annual sexual assault report, including data on reporting and case outcomes. But it didn't explain why it shuttered the advisory groups. Democratic Congresswoman Chrissy Houlihan of Pennsylvania is an Air Force veteran who serves on the House Armed Services Committee.
There's a lot of anxiety there, not just in the space of sexual assault training and that sort of thing, but just in the larger conversation about whether or not there's a viable career path for women who serve.
Congress has forced the Pentagon to reinstate some of the advisory groups that it tried to eliminate. And Houlihan says she plans to continue to pressure the Pentagon, arguing that military readiness depends on dignity and respect for service members. This is Carson Frame reporting.
You've been listening to WHRO's Weekly Edition. We had help today from WHRO's Toby Cox, John Doucette, Vicki Friedman, Catherine Hefner, Nick McNamara, Yi-Ching Wang, and Denise Watson.
WVTF's Dave Cantor, Brad Kuttner, and Michael Pope, and Carson Frame with the American Homefront Project. Also, Connor Worley, who produced today's show. A reminder that you can always catch full episodes on the Weekly Edition podcast feed.
You can get your news updates at WHRO.org and the WHRO Reports podcast feed. For all of us at WHRO and WHRV, I'm Barry Graham.
And I'm Jordan Christie. Have a great weekend.